What's up, guys? Welcome to Information Operation. I'm Connor Ryan, and we're coming at you from Marquette, Michigan, bringing you your locally sourced ideas, thoughts, and inquiries. Today on the podcast, we feature Monica Nelson. She is a registered dietitian at UP Health Systems Marquette, so she was able to talk and shed a lot of light upon nutrition, nutrition facts, nutrition fads, where our food comes from, why we eat food the way we do. So it was really interesting to sit down and have this conversation. I hope you enjoy what we covered. So Monica,
Yes, Connor.
what's going on?
I don't know, you tell me. You're set up here with all your fancy, fidgety gadgets. I like it. You're all like Mr. Mister.
Well, thanks for being here. I really like doing the podcast, and it's been cool to have local people who are actually engaged in the community on the show. And you are one of those people, in my opinion.
Well, thanks, sir. Yeah, no, I never would have expected all this stuff. I don't know. I mean, again, I stay off the social media grid.
Right. So you are a registered dietitian.
Correct?
And where do you work?
At Marquette General Hospital, actually, Duke Life Point now. So it's UP Health Systems Marquette.
And that's as of recently.
Yep, I came back there in December of 2017. I worked there previously as the lead for the weight and non-surgical weight management.
Beautiful. So how did that all get started? Like, did you originally pick up a degree in nutrition, or did this become, okay.
Yeah, so how did I get into is that what you're
Yeah,
wondering?
what sparked that interest?
Actually I kind of fell into it. It wasn't something I woke up one day and was like, I want to be a dietitian, right?
Yeah, right.
But I played high school sports. I played sports all my life, and I think female athletes are a little prone to distorted thoughts about food and their body image and stuff like that.
Big
And
time.
so I had an opportunity to take a nutrition class with Moe Moafi, and I don't know, it helped start framing food in a different way for me, I guess, in what health is, and making it more concrete. So if I could understand it, then I could take that power away from it. And so and I was pre-law originally.
Really?
And the body is so investigative that there's always something you can look at. So I mean, external cues, internal cues. I mean, there's so much that it's awesome.
Right. And I think, would you agree that that exists with males as well, as that distorted body image nowadays?
I do think so, absolutely. I mean, and that's almost a harder nut to crack. I mean, no, I mean, I shouldn't say it like that, but society allows men to kind of be anything, heavy, not heavy, muscular, not muscular. You're allowed to eat your face off. It's kind of like exalted, and
Right.
I still think females are living up to this ideal that we're supposed to just be whatever this perfect image is. And so when a man has some distortion, it's difficult because they don't have that. It's not society telling that it is, but it's really more themselves. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know I experienced that, and I know a lot of other people who did in wrestling or combat sports where
True.
there's a weight to make.
Well, true. I mean, there's definitely different sports like that. That your weight is going to dictate whether you're going to perform or not, and so, which is always so weird to me. I just don't think I like that.
It's not super healthy.
No, but you look at ballerinas, or you look at gymnasts. I mean, the smaller you are, you're going to be more compact. You're going to
Perform.
And so, but still, when everything's weighted on your weight, that's hard. I
Big
mean,
time.
and then you do like weird stuff, like you take, you sweat it out, or you do this and that. So
Dehydration. Take salt tablets.
Yeah.
Epsom salt baths.
you did that? Weird. Did you?
Anonymously.
Yeah, no, okay. I was messing. I'm like, no, I mean, shit. I wrapped myself in saran wrap.
Really?
I did aerobics when I was in high school.
For what?
Same. I don't know. So you can sweat more. Did it work really well? No.
Well, no,
Well,
because
Well, why?
you're in high school. Because it's temporary. It's very temporary. As soon as you
I
drink,
know that, you door face. You're
Okay.
telling me like I'm telling you. I know that. I'm saying I did weird stuff back then too. Okay. That's
Okay.
all I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
that led you to pick up nutrition
Yeah.
after this course? This
Yeah,
was in high
absolutely.
school.
Yeah. No, in college. So I went to school at Marquette University originally.
Okay.
And my
In
intent,
Wisconsin?
yep,
Okay.
my intent was I really did want to do pre-law, I thought, but then came back here and finished my degree at Northern. And nutrition, my roommate was actually taking this class, and so I was like, sure, I'll take it. I mean, I don't follow things very linearly.
Yeah.
So anyway, and it was really awesome, and I liked it. I liked it. It made sense to me. I like when there's like, I like science, and then there's conclusion most likely, and there's order of operations, and there's cause and effects, and so like if I can dial things down like that and help people understand how their body works, then I just think it's cool.
And what did you like aim to accomplish?
When I was a dietitian,
Yeah.
at the
What
beginning,
did you
I mean,
set out to do? Like mission. Here we go.
like Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Well, I had my first child, Noah, when I was finishing my degree. So I think understanding how someone grows inside of you, and then breastfeeding and so on and so forth. I was really ambitious with working with kids, so I wasn't sure exactly what that would or where that would take me, but just working and trying to improve again someone's overall health from the inside out. But having a kid in college, you don't really get. I didn't have the luxury of going, where do I really want to go? It was like, who's going to take me?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I shouldn't say it like that. I mean, I graduated really well, and again, Molly was a fabulous professor and resource, and so I did my internship down at Hurley Hospital in Flint, and learned a lot, and then from there, just kept going. So I didn't really have mission.
Yeah.
I guess in my mind for healthcare professionals too, sometimes when you set your own agenda, you're not able to hear what's going on.
Right. You kind of close yourself off inside a box.
Yeah.
Start
I'm
thinking
yeah.
inside of a box.
Or what you're trying to give an agenda to somebody else. Maybe that's not their agenda.
Yeah.
So I guess, and I learned, like at Hurley, for instance, we had these cardiac like diet educations. So you had to go in a room and be like, here you go, blah, blah, blah. And so I was talking to this gentleman, and I was like, you could, start walking outside. And he was like, he stopped me. He was like, you know what? It's like, in the neighborhood I live, if I step outside, I will get shot. And so I just like tempered back, and I'm like, wow, I'm not even giving consideration to, is this something that you can do? Or
Even feasible.
Exactly. And so I was like, I'm so sorry. What,
Yeah.
and then I felt like, so I learned from that.
Yeah.
And then when we moved back here, I worked for the Hannahville Indian community, and I was their diabetic coordinator. And it was funny because everybody kept saying, what do we need to do to help change them? And I'm like, why are we trying to change them? Can we start understanding them? And realizing like what historically had happened and how they ended up here, and why they smoke cigarettes, and why maybe they have an issue with alcohol is because their body genetically doesn't process it.
Right.
But or nicotine is awesome anti-anxiety because you have nicotine receptors in your brain, and so it's like they've had so much trauma. So I'm going to sit there and be like, you need to quit smoking to elongate a life that might be really traumatic for you. So I'm like, that's not me to do, but I can educate them on what it does internally. But I don't like to judge.
Yeah. So it sounds like it kind of taught you to ask the right questions.
Yeah, and just try to frame it a little bit. I think again, we come in with this big agenda to and check off boxes to say, I covered this, and sometimes it's not even relevant to the person. They don't care.
Yeah.
And so
Like they walk out no better, no worse.
not at all. And then they come back and they didn't do what you told them to do. And so now they feel more like a failure. And you're like, yep, so you're non-compliant, so let's just perf you out of here. It's just weird to me.
Check the box.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what was going on with Native Americans in what area?
What do you mean, like the entire country? Like when we ousted them, basically, their European people came in and took over.
I understand that.
I know.
I mean, where are you working specifically?
I was working in west of Escanaba.
Okay.
The Hannahville Indian community.
Okay.
I love it. But as we desecrated their matriarchy and patriarchy and put children in orphanages, and then all of a sudden relocated them into land that they never were familiar with.
Yeah.
And they never had parents to raise them per se. Not everyone, but a lot of them did not, because whatever. How do they know what to do? And then we plied them with processed grains and sugar, and then again alcohol, and again genetically most tribes never had that. And so it's something that they don't have the enzyme to break it down.
They're
And
not
so
adapted to that style of eating at all.
yes, and so it's poisonous to them. So I think the closest they are to that true ethnicity, depending on what tribe, it really is toxic. They just don't break it down.
Yeah.
And that's so, yeah.
And that kind of reminds me of what we were talking about earlier with the grocery store epidemic of we used to eat seasonally. You know,
Totally.
what has changed since we started eating seasonally?
Well, I mean, just, this capitalistic society, and I think too, people like convenience. And I think when you had more of a nuclear family back in the day, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but
Right.
so when you have dual parents that are working, you are like stressed for time, and so you want things that are convenient. So I think the food industry adapted that, but also product placed it for people. But in the downtown area, it's like, oh, that's not cool. No, we're going to deconstruct that, and we're going to make these giant stores out in the suburbs, and have these like supposedly reduced price foods in bigger quantities, so you don't have to shop as frequently. But then you're getting all the stuff that has shelf life that you don't even know what is in it.
Right. Processed foods.
Yeah, and so someone doesn't have like transportation to get there. What are they supposed to do? So they're beholden to convenience stores, or they're just in their local neighborhoods and they're buying high-priced crap food. So, and it's funny. So when I think about it, we are trying to do what was already in place before. So now the movement is more local foods, right?
Yeah.
And so you're seeing the big box stores getting a little bit bad press. Downtown's trying to be revitalized and so on and so forth. So
Right.
everything we did like 30 to 40 years ago, they're like, oh, shit.
Reversing it.
Yep. Yeah.
With things like the co-op and farmers market.
Absolutely.
And
Yep. And just awareness, I think.
yeah.
And I think seasonal, like, again, so, and just, I don't know, it's just interesting. Like, we can have whatever we want whenever we want it, which is annoying to me for some
Yeah.
reason. Like cotton candy.
Well, it's not meant to be that way.
Yeah, you should have cotton candy at a fair. That's it. I should never be able to buy it in a box or like a little bucket.
bag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's weird to me.
it's
That's just like there's
strange.
nothing that's like special anymore. You can get, I mean, at all.
That's an interesting concept. Or
Yeah.
ice cream.
Everything. You
A
can get anything
gallon.
you want. Anything you want.
Anything?
Anything. Just kidding. Candy corn. I only got it at Halloween. I can get that 24/7. It's just weird to me that we've just made everything so available that I think people think that's what's supposed to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
But where's all this stuff coming from? That's another question I have.
The food?
Yeah.
Labs. I'm just kidding. There's a lot. I'm sorry. No, but I mean, you look at something. I mean, they know how to like manipulate flavor.
Big
through.
time.
I mean, so there's a lot of foods that do have a lot of that go along with it. But I mean, the food that we get, I mean, a lot of it is produced. I mean, elsewhere. We import quite a bit. And so it's funny that even Michigan is one of the biggest bread baskets in terms of agriculture. We don't buy, we import more apple juice from China than we actually buy from Michigan. Even though apples are a big crop.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Big time. What about other fruits and vegetables? Where is that stuff coming from?
Well, I mean, we're Mexico, you're talking Central America, South America, China. I mean, basically, we have a global food market. And so, again, depending on supply and demand and what people are buying and what people want, they'll find it. And so I just feel like and there's different types of like fruit that can actually continue to ripen when it's picked off the vine or whatever, and foods that are static when they get like harvested.
Right.
And so if they're harvested before, if there's that type of fruit and they're harvested before they're actually fully to its ripeness, then you're actually losing the benefit of some of the vitamins and minerals that would be there at its final destination, if that makes sense. So
it's actually better for you when it gets there.
only if they can actually ripen as they're picked, after they're picked. Some
Okay.
fruits and vegetables cannot.
Like,
But I'm not a fan. I'm just saying we want what we want. So we're going to we're going to grow strawberries, just weird stuff that are really, they're white in the middle. I just don't understand, like, is that really food?
right. It's kind of, well, how do they do it? How do they make it grow? It's kinda-
Well, I mean,
it's out
I
of-
think
it's
that
out of season.
that could be climatic. I think it's not climatic. That's right. Or climactic, or
Climactic.
no, something. It's like climate
Yeah,
related. So like,
right.
I don't know if it's strawberries. I don't know that much about that stuff per se, but all I know is that we live in a very northern climate, so we need to be very in tune with what, to me, local is Michigan or at least Wisconsin, Minnesota, but like what we can buy, and it's going to be cheaper anyway too, because
It's local.
yeah, well, it's local, but it's less transportation, it's less carbon emissions.
It's like apples, potatoes.
Yeah, there's a lot of like very hardy vegetables. I mean, like you have asparagus in the spring, apples in the fall. You know, you have your lettuces and your squashes and all that jazz too. So I mean, but in the winter, berries are no.
Spinach?
Yeah,
You can do
maybe, but
spinach
people are
in the
doing a lot of
winter.
greenhouses and stuff though too. People are trying to
Is
like
that
do their
cool?
stuff. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
If you want to, if
Right.
you have time,
But it's healthy.
it's all right. Probably, absolutely. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, I don't know. It's grown indoors if it needs any kind of
Oh,
extra
no, it depends.
chemicals or
No,
anything to be
I
grown.
don't think so. I mean, if it's like it's an under controlled environment. I mean, like in a greenhouse. Think about it. You can incubate your stuff and then you can
Yeah.
transplant it outside.
Right.
So I mean, you're still getting. You mean like in pots? I think people still have to utilize sunlight.
Same stuff.
Why are you asking me? I don't know. I'm just
Sorry,
kidding.
Monica.
I'm just kidding.
I'm
I know
not-
a little bit about that, but I'm not.
expert.
I'm not a farmer
Not
either.
a farmer.
I'm not
Right.
either.
So when we started, you kind of started with like I was an athlete and
Mm-hmm.
I was interested in body image and things like that. Have you worked with a lot of athletes?
Not necessarily. I mean, let me think about this. I mean, I have, but I think it's nice to have somebody who does have a trajectory on what their aim is and their focus
Yeah.
is. But not a ton. No, actually, more in the fringe population. I guess I shouldn't call it fringe, but like
Yeah.
people that really have like you're morbidly obese, have diabetes, Native Americans with the diabetes. I mean, just stuff like that. But having my own knowledge about my own distortion, I suppose, back in the day, a lot of it's not about foods per se. I'm sorry, it's just really not. It
Yeah.
kind of is, but it's not. There's something else that's driving that beast. And so until they understand what is driving that beast, I think going in and talking about food sometimes and trying to make it really concrete and this and this and that
Right. This is your
just
diet.
feeds it.
This is your
It
diet.
just feeds it. It feeds that.
Like
So-
you need this. You need external.
and
Let's
they already know
focus on
that.
the internal.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that they know that, but consciously it's like they're like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I think even maybe in like AA, this could be completely wrong. I'm sorry I'm saying this, but some people maybe who aren't ready to, take that leap, they can learn some really good things from the people who are like, yeah, I used to do this, I used to do this. So, so
Right.
it's like, I think if someone's not ready to make a change, but yet they're going to see a dietitian in this capacity,
Yeah.
they might,
They're a step in the right direction.
yeah. Well, no. I think that they can either like hunker back down and be like and draw their own line in the sand because it's not about the food per se. I don't think a lot of times. Now I think it's nice to enlighten and give them the power to actually ask questions and have choice. I did work with a couple teams, all female, like baseball, basketball, and just to be like, what are you doing? What's important to you, and this and that, and like, food can be a fuel. And I like how it worked for me as I deconstructed it. So it wasn't good or bad. It
Yeah.
was just fat, protein, carbohydrate, and then from there I could be more specific if I wanted to be.
Right.
But it was just something that was concrete. And so talking in terms like that, I think, can be helpful for some people. So they can go, gosh, wow, I can't believe that I freaked out because I had a Twinkie. Who cares?
Right.
But I used to care. That would freak me out.
Yeah.
So, and to understand, like, okay, so it's just in your concept of the day, it's nothing.
That's interesting what you say about carbs, fats, and proteins because there's like all these like constructs nowadays where low carb, high fat, discrepancies between how much protein to take. Like,
I know.
what is
That's a big question.
Well, yeah, it's not a question yet. I
Okay.
guess my question is ketogenic feasible?
Well, I mean, oh God. Okay, so,
Ketogenic state, is that feasible?
of course it is.
Do you recommend it?
I mean, we all are in it to some extent at some point. I mean, if we have, like, say you're sitting in the airport, you don't have any extra cash, and your plane's delayed for like 12 hours, you're going
Yeah.
to be at some point in ketosis.
Right.
Depending, I should say.
Right. For people who don't know what we're talking about, can we explain
Okay,
ketosis and the ketogenic diet?
So essentially, your body goes through one in the post-absorptive state. So after you eat a meal and it's digested and whatever you ate is being broken down and then either stored or used for energy, you go through phases. So typically, about every 4 hours or so, you're gonna utilize your first your first form of fuel, which will be carbohydrate to glucose. 4 hours or so. And then from there, you might start breaking down a little bit of your amino acids to make glucose. And then
Right.
at some point, depending on, again, where you're at in your intake and your metabolism, whatever, you should be at some point around 12 hours, possibly dipping into a fat store to use now for your other substrates, right?
And that takes 12 hours.
I mean, theoretically.
Crazy.
Theoretically.
Okay.
So, but ketosis is when you are under eating carbohydrates or you're under eating in general. Your body has to move to like a fourth substrate, I guess. So it's ketone bodies that are now the main primary fuel of choice for your body.
Yeah.
Although certain organs don't prefer that, especially the brain. They like glucose.
Really?
Yeah.
For optimal performance. And then, I mean, isn't there certain types of athletes that are carbohydrate dominant?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Sprinters?
Sprinters, no,
Well,
because they're more
no,
anaerobic. Yeah.
Right, that's more creatine phosphate. So,
I would say your distance runners and stuff, though, if they went on a keto, like a ketogenic diet, I don't know. I don't know this super well,
Yeah.
but their endurance and their need for, your body needs blood sugar homeostasis. That's kind of like the priority. So when you look at like life, you have pecking order of what's priority. Like breathing and life is priority. Other things are not. So your body will go through different steps
homeostatic
to go down.
mechanisms,
Yes.
yeah.
And they'll pick and choose based on what you're doing through your intake and what is going to stay happening or what's not.
Right.
If that makes sense. Like, so say if you go and you have hypothermia, real quick, like your body will start to like take blood from your limbs and shunt it to your internal
Yeah.
organs to protect them, because that's like life.
Right.
Like they don't care about your arms and legs.
Right.
That's why people go down.
Right.
So just like that, you know. I shouldn't do like
And that's
that.
why
It's
people
terrible.
get frostbite in their fingers, like first.
Yes. Your extremities. But yes, I
blood
think your heart,
constricts, yeah.
here, but also it's circulation. So what's the farthest from your heart?
Your feet.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. Really? Obviously you don't.
Sorry.
Here's the thing.
That's just fascinating
Yeah.
to me to think about.
So I think structurally, that's what I try to help people with too. I'm getting on a side way, but like structurally, you got to look at your body as a structure. Like what's going on? Like, okay, say you're constipated.
Yeah.
Well, you've been sick. You've been laying down for a long time. If you're laying, how is poop going to go
Yeah.
necessarily? I know it sounds
Right.
weird, but I mean, so you need to get up and move. So the more you're
Right.
agitating your system, it's helpful.
But we digress.
We did. So going back ketogenic.
Yeah. So there's ultramarathon runners who swear by the ketogenic diet. Just
Which
because
is really weird to me.
Well, yeah, it just allows them to have that slow burn and more effective burn because fat is a little more efficient because 9 calories per gram.
True point. It's smaller. I don't know, but it's less.
They can pack more energy in.
And I don't know about the fat. I mean, fat, it doesn't utilize insulin though. Okay, let me think about this for a minute. So endurance, you said ultra marathon runners?
Yeah, 100 miles.
They have to be taking some carbs. There's no way. I have to look into that. I don't know. So I will,
Yeah,
let me pause on that one.
definitely.
But let me go back to my own thought on all these
How the body works.
diets.
Yeah.
Is that we all have our own basal metabolic rate, which is your BMR. And so I don't care and I will ask people, like, because I think there's so much oversaturation in terms of what we should be doing, like, oat bran or fiber, or blah, 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 and just really not knowing what. And so what is important to you? So we start there. And then if you have all these generic diets and yet calories do make sense somewhere. So if someone's got this weight thing going on, I'm like all this generic ketoacidosis,
Ketogenic, paleo,
yeah,
there's
blah,
so
blah,
many
blah.
different kinds of diets.
It doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you are overeating or undereating, at some point you're not getting where you want to be, no matter what.
Right.
So, because with your basal metabolic rate, that is what facilitates maintaining your lean body muscle. And so, over time, if you are under eating that, your body will stop. It will go into almost starvation mode. And so you're going to stop no matter what you're doing. I don't care if it's
Yeah.
like keto or low fat, low carb.
Ultramarathon,
I don't
sedentary,
care.
whatever.
Yeah. It's still, it boils down to what your checkbook is.
Intake versus
Yeah,
outtake.
absolutely.
Input, output.
Yeah. And so when someone, you need to understand it, because then people will follow all these generics in terms of like these structured diets and they
Yes.
expect that they're going to get these great results. And like, especially females, we don't have a lot like body muscle versus men, because testosterone drives muscle. We have estrogen drives likes fat loving hormones. So in the muscle, I mean, there's varied schools of thought, but it costs more to operate in the body. So when you have more muscle, your base need is higher. Right. So men will do much better on a lot of these low-carb diets because, number one, you have more to spend. So when you cut, yeah, okay. Number two, every molecule of glycogen, which is your storage of carbohydrate, carries 4 water molecules. So essentially, as you cut these carbs, for a little bit, you're going to diurese, you're going to lose water weight. So it's stored in the muscles and liver. So I mean, it's in the organs. So it's like men, I think, again, because they, but people get that quick, like, oh my God, this is working
This
so
is
well.
results.
Oh my
I
God, so I'm going to eat like
such
pork
great
rinds
results.
instead of a banana because God forbid a banana has sugar. It's just like so crazy to me.
Right. But isn't sugar the devil?
Oh my God, I don't know. I mean,
You hear the difference when you speak directly into the microphone?
maybe. Oh, sorry. Am
Yeah.
I like slurring probably?
It's okay.
Hold on. That was really subtle. Thanks, Connor.
Yeah, no problem. So, sugar's the devil.
I mean, again, so I love that our country likes to do this. It takes tiny little bits of information. It doesn't necessarily bring them into synergy, and it vilifies things over all the time. So it doesn't work together. So, just like, okay, sugar's fine.
Whoa.
I don't care. I really do.
Really?
Yes. So, I mean, the thing is again, in the context of carb, protein, and fat, everything that has carbohydrate breaks down into sugar. I don't care.
Does it come down to where you're getting it?
To some
If
extent.
you're getting it from fruit or a candy bar, is there a difference?
Okay, again, structurally, in my mind, protein helps carbohydrate come into the system a little slower.
Okay.
Okay, so which can help not bring insulin into the system faster.
Yes.
Which can help because when insulin's playing with you, your body's fat can never break down. That's insulin's other second thing.
Function.
Yeah, so it helps transport glucose into your cells for energy, but it also keeps fat from breaking down. So when I would work with people, my biggest thing was, you want to try to like eat every 2 to 4 hours or so that your body does have some post-absorptive. Your body is also not having just a constant fed state, and you're not bringing insulin all the time. And so calorically wise, as long as there was some pairing in my mind with carb with the protein or a little bit of fat or whatever, but fat's also I don't know, it takes longer to break down. So anyway, you're not going to have spikes in your blood sugar. And so your body's...
So you're avoiding the riding the wave.
Yeah, but also bringing insulin on board. So if you're going to want to try to lose some weight, you want to know what your basal metabolic rate is so that you are keeping what's the golden tissue in my mind is your muscle intact. And you're able to actually tap into your fat stores through whatever activity you're doing.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, and again, depending on whatever your needs are, I mean, I don't like people to cut. It's like if you have all this need, eat it while you can and save your body because the vacillation of weight loss, it was just so destructive too. So,
Right.
I mean, people have lost 100 pounds like 10 times. And so that slowly destroys, it just screws your metabolism so bad, so it's hard.
Yeah. So if you eat every 2 hours, when are you
Not
gonna?
2 hours.
What?
Every 2 to 4.
Every
Small.
Okay. Every 2 to 4 hours. How are you ever gonna start breaking down fat
At the end of the day.
when you're sleeping? Mm-hmm. Wow. But that's kind of a diet in itself, right?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I look again structurally. I don't ever say diet. I want to know what your need is. If your
Yeah.
needs are this, and then we take it and I break it down. Only if they want to be concrete with it. Some people
Right.
don't want to know.
They just kind of want guidelines.
Yes. And
Okay.
so some people don't want choices though either. But if they don't know what they're working with and they're taking a generic diet industry and they're trying to fuse it medically,
Right.
it's so screwed up.
It
to me.
doesn't work.
No,
So
it doesn't
you're saying
work.
it all depends on this metabolic
The-
rate.
yeah,
How is
BMR.
that assessed?
Well, gold standard really is actually like underwater weighing, but I mean, who's doing that? I mean, really. But
So people can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the respiratory lab, when you're about 10 to 12 hours post, you're fasting, or any time anyway. But so it's a respiratory test that measures the amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen ratio.
Kind of like VO2 max?
Kind of, but
Sorta.
kind of.
You're not exercising.
No, because I mean, so what we're looking at is you have fat, protein, and carbohydrate in some capacity. So that's how your energy is stored in your system. And what they have in common is carbon, and so in their molecular structure.
Yeah.
So in those, like, again, post-absorptive hours, depends on where your body's breaking it down, you're going to be respirating, or you're going to be expelling carbon dioxide based on what substrate you're using for your
Yeah.
energy. Okay. So it's the ratio, which is really cool. So all you do is breathe. And so it's hooked up to the metabolic cart, and then the results are right there. And
Yeah.
so you get what's called a respiratory quotient.
Yeah.
And so that will help tell me.
Gosh, we did this in school.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome because it can help. It tells a big story. I mean, so carbon, our carbohydrate has the most carbon bonds. So if RQ respiratory comes back at 1, that means that that person in that long of a time is still using carbohydrate as their substrate, which is meaning they're either overfed,
Yeah.
or they have some sort of I call it a storage issue. They might have their diabetes is out of control, or this or that.
Right,
So
right.
they're not tapping into any fat breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
But 0.85 is kind of like a mixed fuel. It's like between carbs and protein. And so it's like that person is just, their weight status has been normal. They're eating their needs to not, that's it. So we're like, okay, that's cool, you know. And then you have people who are like 0.7, which is fat, and then below, which is ketoacidosis. And those are usually my post-surgical patients, because their body was just hyperly like metabolic, like just
Inflammation,
shredding, just
crazy.
shredding weight.
Okay.
Because, bariatric surgery, it's not because they're eating less, because we know that that's counterintuitive to what has to happen for weight loss. So there's so much metabolic and endocrine stuff that goes down that's like insane. Actually, I'll talk about that another time.
Okay.
That's a big story.
Right.
So so if someone doesn't know what they need, I mean, you can follow guidelines for diet, I don't care, or whatever your intake is. I mean, but it has to be important to you. So I mean, if someone wants to follow paleo or keto, fine. But I mean, if they're doing it for weight loss, unless they know what their base needs are, they're just going to end up like any other diet.
Right. So they're trying to use a book to satisfy a absolutely individual need.
Yeah. Yes.
Have you heard of the carnivore diet?
No.
Oh,
Just all what?
the carnivore diet is nothing but meat.
See, I just think that's insane to
What
me.
kind of effect do you think that would have?
Well, I mean, so meat's so acidic too in the system. I mean,
Yeah.
so so anything that's acidic, your body needs calcium to break down.
Huh.
Not to break down, to help buffer those. So when you think of your bones and your enamel, that houses
Yeah.
about 99% of your calcium.
Yeah.
1% resides in your bloodstream, right?
Yeah.
Because it's smooth muscle contractor, specifically cardiac. And so if your body is hyperly acidic, your parathyroid hormone sometimes will come down and say, okay, start bringing calcium into the blood to help balance this out,
Yeah.
to keep a pH neutral. And so there's you can have fractures. I mean, there's just a lot of issues with that. And vitamin D deficiency, it's just
Yeah, and this is, as far as I know, just recently popular, where people are getting into eating nothing but meat, and they're having results
well, what kind of results?
as
Again,
athletes. As athletes, they're having performance results. They're performing well. They're doing well at competitions. Some fighters, some actual doctors.
are they pooping? I mean, swear to God, are they taking fiber supplements? There's got to be something else around. I mean,
There's not. That's the craziest part.
I'll have to look into that.
But there's no long-term studies on this.
No.
So what you're saying about bones and what you're saying about
Yeah.
teeth and things like that,
So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So if they're doing short term, for productivity, or for, like you said, for performance, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes when I work with people too, I like to look back historically. Sorry, that's my phone.
Oh my gosh, Monica, you didn't turn your
I
phone
am
off.
sorry. It's probably my children,
Yes.
probably. So I'm just gonna let that ring out. I don't know where it's at. So I'm sorry. This is our phone pause. But
What kind of ringtone is this?
dance party. Of course, it's dance party.
Hey, keep it upbeat.
No, you like that? Yeah.
Very
yeah,
cool.
What was I saying? Oh, I look at ethnicity too. So if someone has, I don't know, psoriasis or anything that's affecting the skin,
Yeah.
I look, okay, and go, hey, what's your ancestor look like?
Yeah.
And then I try to say, hey, well, your ancestor never ate this stuff, so let's just do this for
Yeah.
2 weeks and
Yeah.
see phenomenal results. So, I mean, I'm not saying, we all obviously have come from our Neanderthals or whatever, and I'm pretty sure it is. They were only eating meat. However, well, think about it. I mean, I don't know, but
Absolutely.
however,
Carnivores.
our digestive system and our ethnicity, our genetics, we've evolved over time. I mean, there's hunters and gatherers and stuff like that too, but I mean, so there's different populations of,
There's always been gatherers.
yeah. So, I mean, I just personally, as almost vegan, I mean, I can't. I don't like the texture of meat. I think it's gross. I don't really like the fact that again we like commercially grow animals for
Right.
our want.
Right.
That's just me.
Yeah.
I like humanely treated animals, I think, and that's great. And
I like
that's,
eggs.
Yeah, like from chicken.
Yeah, nothing's really
From chicken salad.
killed, you know?
No,
It's
yeah,
kinda cool.
I mean, but
Grass-fed.
yeah, I like again if it's a farmer, yes. I mean they're a living being. They feel pain and all that stuff. I just like it's like weird to me that someone can just detach and be like kill that thing.
Yeah.
But
it
that's
sounds
them.
like,
But it's this.
yeah, it's a system.
It is.
System.
The system, yeah, the system deconstructed.
But
Oof.
that's an interesting perspective coming from, you said almost vegan.
Hmm?
Now, people who don't know how to do veganism right, are they at serious risk for health issues?
Oh, not necessarily. I mean,
What? Crazy.
I don't know. Well, look, I mean, you just asked me about carnivore. I mean, my
Yeah.
gosh, so they should probably be way more at risk than someone who's just deciding to eat more plant-based.
Yeah.
In my mind, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a few things. Vitamin B12 is one that's primarily touted as something that they will definitely most likely want to get a supplement.
Yeah.
And calcium too. But I don't take any dairy. I mean, there's so many other. I mean, almond milk. I mean, there's a plethora of ways to get in what you
Calcium.
need. I think sometimes you can suffer from possibly some anemia necessarily, depending on what your whole blood panel looks like and what you're taking in for iron sources. So I think you need to be a little stealthy in terms of, again, how does your body operate, and make sure that if you are prone to anemia or if you know that you have,
You gotta know your shit.
yes, and then you can steer your choices toward that. And there's everything under the sun in terms of meeting those needs through plant-based eating for sure. Back in the day, I think the school of thought too was that you have the essential amino acids that come. I mean, meat sources they have all of your amino acids that you need for your body. So they're
It's a complete protein.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think back in the day, they would say, well, if you had plant-based, you had to eat them together, like beans and rice.
Like rice and beans, yeah.
Hey, you don't have to do that. You can
No.
eat them like within the concept of the day or so, or a couple of
Right.
days. I mean, our bodies aren't. I
Yeah.
mean, they're freaking cool, but they're not that dialed.
Yeah, the
Or-
digestive system takes some time to catch up
Yep.
and provide the body and blood with all the nutrients. That makes sense to me.
Yep, absolutely.
Another question I have for you is about salt, because I feel like there's a lot of recommendations that say, cut your salt, cut your sodium intake if you're having heart problems. But isn't salt a very essential mineral to have in the diet?
Well, I mean, it is. Well, I mean, so that's a weighted question. Yes, I love salt. But in nature, scientifically, water follows salt.
Okay.
So if you have any issues with cardiac function, if you do take in a lot of sodium, then fluid's going to pour out into your vascular system and you're going to put more pressure. You're going to have a higher volume.
Blood pressure.
Yes. Okay, so having said that, going back to our industrial food revolution, boxed foods, canned foods and stuff, they have just an exorbitant amount of sodium. So
Yeah.
we ingest a lot more than, I don't even think people are shaking it on their food anymore necessarily. They get more sodium from the foods they're eating than, so.
Yeah.
So
The processing.
yes, so frozen. I mean, so if you use cold as an agent for keeping it preserved, then to me that's always a better choice. And
Instead
actually,
of using salt or boxes or shelf life.
yeah, or you just sprinkle a little bit on there if you want. But I mean, our bodies are awesome. I mean, again, it depends on if you have a disease state. If you do, then you need to be more mindful. But I mean, your body's going to tell you you're going to be thirsty. You're going to maybe sweat more. I mean. It regulates itself very well. The more we try, I think, to manipulate it so much, I think we screw it up more than anything else.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I feel like there's rumors right now that are stating the sugar industry, if that even exists,
Well, of course there's a sugar.
okay, sugar industry has told people that salt and saturated fat are the leading source of heart conditions, and that's so they can make more money because sugar
It's
is.
inflammatory to some extent.
But that's going to do the same thing if you're obese. Sugar makes you obese if you're going to eat too much of it.
Anything. If you eat too much of anything, you're going to be.
Right.
Okay, going back to your base one. I'm sorry. Calories are still calories, but So why is sugar such an inflammatory thing? Right.
Right.
So going back to breakdown. So if you ingest a lot, this is a huge topic too, by the way. I'm going to keep this part a little simple because I could go off, but
Oh, by the way, this is part 1.
this is only part 1. So we'll talk, you know what, maybe we'll shelve the sugar. I'll just start it. I'll start it. When it breaks down, so
open the
when
can.
sugar breaks down, or carbs break down into glucose, your body sends insulin to help carry it from the bloodstream into the cell. So there can be multiple things that can cause manipulation of that process. So glucose is a really large molecule, so if it stays longer in your bloodstream than it should be, then you have almost, I always think of it like throwing rocks down a hose. Okay, so, and it clogs up how your blood is transported because you have traffic jam now. So if you start having wear and tear on the inside of your highway, which I call it your highway, your veins and your arteries, over time, sometimes they can be damaged. And so your body then sends in the white blood cell parade of Star Wars to help fix it. And so now you have fluid that goes to the sites of damage, inflammation. So over time, that's sugar's biggest culprit is unbequetted just dumping into the into your digestive system, into the absorption of the small intestines. And so how do you moderate that? That's what I try to help people understand, how to moderate that. So I said, Snicker bar and a protein drink, I don't care. Works for me. Not really, I don't really eat Snickers, but I mean, it's fundamentally, what are you taking in? It's like carb, fat, protein.
Gotcha.
I'm going really quick back to the sodium thing too. So sometimes I like to look at how the body works a lot. Okay. And
Imagine that.
instead of like saying no,
Yeah.
just be like, okay, so if I do this, what can I do to counterbalance it? So it doesn't have such a big impact on my overall health negatively.
Right.
So potassium helps to balance sodium.
So instead of cutting sodium, try eating more potassium.
Yeah, fresh fruits and veggies, yeah. I mean, so I didn't recommend that, but I'm just saying, because I mean, my gosh, we give people these crazy concrete ultimatums on their health, like never, don't
Cut your
boom,
sodium,
boom, boom.
no
and all of a
sodium.
sudden they're in like Congo Bongo,
Yeah.
and they have no choice. They're like, I can't eat anything because I don't know what the fuck I do. You gotta give them the ability to like, you know, to.
I'm in prison.
I know,
Yeah.
right? To like be able to make an executive choice and not shame themselves
And
over or think they're going to die.
Rationalize it based on fact.
Totally. And I
You
don't,
know?
as a health provider, I don't want to be the information holder. I want to tell you what, because I see you so infrequently. You're the one who has to do the work. This makes sense to you. So it's like, why do I want to be like, yeah, you have to come back to me to make sure everything. It's like, no, I don't want that much responsibility.
I'm going to give you the resources.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, yes. Yes. I think that's a good place to stop, though.
So what are the resources?
I'm not telling you. That's
What
part
are the,
two.
What about cholesterol? How like
I know. That's part two.
cholesterol? No?
Part two.
Bad cholesterol, good cholesterol?
Part two.
Okay. Monica Nelson.
Hi.
She agreed to do part 1 and part 2 series with her assistant, Miss.
Well, not my assistant. She's an intern. Hopefully, get him happen. Or she's at the hospital, so we'll see. I'll have to let you know.
Yeah, and she's super cool.
She's super cool.
So she's going to make an appearance on information
So
operation.
yeah, we'll have the younger half of my generation.
And
who actually, like,
hopefully everybody got a lot out of this. I know I did. Thank you,
Awesome.
Monica.
thanks, Connor.
Until next time, guys. Ride the waves, dude.
Yeah, ciao.